It's lightweight, drapey, and super festive using only one simple V-stitch pattern that's beginner friendly, and you're not gonna believe how easy and quick this crochet cardigan is to make. Hey crochet bestie, I'm Shaz and today I'll be showing you how to make this lightweight crochet cardigan in red, white, and blue. It's perfect for summer, the 4th of July, and honestly, just a fun piece for the upcoming World Cup season too. Since some of the games will be happening right here in Seattle, me and my boys are already super excited for all the soccer fun coming up. And the written pattern includes all sizes from extra small all the way up to 5XL. For this pattern, I'm using a category 1 weight yarn from Alize Diva Silky Effect. This yarn will give you the most beautiful drape and shine. I'm also using a 3mm crochet hook to go with this yarn. You'll also need, of course, some stitch markers, a tape measure, and a pair of scissors. And before we start with the tutorial, don't forget to save this pattern for later and subscribe for more patterns just like this. Now let's get right into it. We'll first be working on the length of the back panel, and I'll be making 149 chain for size medium. And for all the other sizes, you can find them in the link in the description box below. So because this yarn is so fine, I prefer to use the chainless foundation stitch instead of the regular chains. But feel free to use whichever method you prefer. To start the foundation chain, you'll first measure the length of the cardigan that you'd like to make with the yarn, minus 2 inches for the color change, and you'll triple the length before starting the chainless foundation stitch. Once you have 3 times the length, you'll work up a slip knot. You insert your hook into the loop, and with your non-dominant hand, you'll pick up that long tail, you'll wrap that tail over the hook, you'll yarn over and pull through both loops. You'll wrap the bottom yarn over the hook, yarn over, and pull through both loops. You'll do this until you have the number of chains that you need. Once you've completed all your chains, you should have a stretchy foundation chain just like this, and any excess tail, just feel free to snip that off. Now we'll chain once more to start the next row. Now as you can see, the V stitch on one side, you'll yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch through both loops. It might be a little bit tricky at first, especially on the first stitch. You'll draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. This is your double crochet stitch. You'll chain 1, yarn over, back into that same stitch. You'll work another double crochet stitch. And this will be your first V stitch. Next, you'll chain 1, you'll skip 3 into that fourth stitch, you'll work another V stitch. That'll be a double crochet, a chain, and another double crochet. So this is basically your repeat pattern. You'll chain 1, skip 3, and work your V stitch all the way across. Once you've worked your way all the way to that last chain, you should end on a V stitch. And this is how your first row should look like. Now for your second row, we'll chain 1. The starting stitch will be slightly different. We'll be working our first stitch as a double crochet stitch. So into that first stitch, you'll work a double crochet, you'll chain one, and you'll work your V stitch through that chain space. We'll chain one and we'll continue to work the V stitch through every chain space, followed by another chain until we've reached the last chain space. Once you've worked your way all the way across and you've reached that last chain space, you'll chain one and work one double crochet into that last stitch. Chain one and turn your work. For the next row, you'll yarn over and work a V stitch into the chain space. You'll chain one and continue to work the V stitch into every chain space all the way across. You'll repeat these two rows, the second and third row, for a total of 59 rows for size medium, or until you've reached the total width. And I'll meet you back here once you're done. Once you've completed your back panel, it should look something like this. Now we'll be working on the front panel. The best way to get the size that we need is by taking the width of the back panel minus the neckline and the 2 inches for the ribbing. You'll divide that into 2. This will be the width that we'll need to make the front panels. Using the same chainless foundation stitch number, you'll go ahead and repeat the same pattern as the back panel for the width needed. And don't forget to minus 2 inches for the color change. For size medium, I needed 20 rows. And once you're done, go ahead and make a second piece. Once the front panels are completed, place them on top of the back panels and place stitch markers along the shoulders and leave a 7.5 inch gap for the arm opening and place more stitch markers along the corners. There is no right or wrong side for this pattern, but I chose to place both foundation rows on the inside. Now we'll turn our work to the side and we will seam the sides. You'll insert your hook at the bottom of both pieces. You'll drop a loop, chain one to secure. Now don't forget to work around any loose tails. You'll insert your hook through the front and the back and you'll work a single crochet. You'll work into every stitch evenly across and try to work into a stitch rather than through a chain space, and you'll work your single crochet stitch. You'll do this all the way across until you've reached that stitch marker just below the armhole. Go ahead and finish working on the other side as well as the shoulder portion. Now let's make the sleeves, and because you already know how to start the pattern, you'll go ahead and chain 117 stitches for the width of the sleeve and work the V stitch pattern for a total of 59 rows. Feel free to measure as you go if you're using your own custom size. And once you've completed all your rows, we will be working on the color change. You'll pick up the red yarn and you'll insert your hook into that last stitch that you worked on. Now if that stitch is a V stitch, you will be working a double crochet through the first stitch. But if the first stitch is a double crochet and a chain space, then you go straight into working a V stitch through that chain space. Now you'll just be repeating the V-stitch pattern all the way across, and you'll do this for a total of 3 rows. Once you've completed 3 rows of the color red, we will now switch to our white yarn, and we'll repeat the same thing by working 3 more rows with the white yarn, and I'll meet you back here once you're done. Once you've completed 3 rows of the white yarn, we will finish off this last row with a blue yarn. So just like before, we'll repeat the V-stitch pattern into every stitch all the way across, and we'll just do this for 1 row. Once you've completed your color change and you've completed all rows, go ahead and make a second sleeve. Now we will go ahead and seam up the sides. Now go ahead and place a stitch marker on each corner and a couple more along the sides. And make sure that the sleeves are wrong side up, and the way to know this is to refer to that last row. The stitches should be the wrong side facing out. Now go ahead and seam up the sides using the same way we did on the body panels. Once both sleeves are seamed up, you'll turn them right side out, and we can now take the body panels while still on the wrong side. We'll take the sleeves end and pull it through the arm opening like this. Make sure that the sleeves are folded along the seam and at the bottom end. Now we will place stitch markers along the arm opening while aligning the seams together to make it easier for us to join later on. It should fit perfectly, and if it doesn't, just adjust the seam along the underarm side. Now you'll insert your hook through the bottom of the arm opening, through the body panel and the sleeves. We'll pick up our blue yarn and we'll chain 1 to secure. And we'll work single crochet stitches into both pieces in the round. And once we've worked our way all the way in the round, you'll go ahead and find that first stitch and work a slip stitch to close up the round and chain 1 to secure. Bind off and repeat the same thing on the other side. Once you've connected both sleeves, we will now add the red and white border to the front panels and along the neckline, and we will join them together through the bottom edging. Starting with the right panel, you'll turn your work and insert your hook into that last stitch at the bottom. You'll pick up your red yarn, you'll pull through, and you'll work your V-stitch pattern just like how we did with the sleeves. And you'll do this into every chain space all the way across. And I'll meet you back here once we're at the neckline. Once you've reached the neckline, you'll now be working on the rose post side. You will now replace the chain space with the double crochet stitch instead. So you'll find the next double crochet stitch, and if it is the following stitch, just work your V stitch through the seam stitch, and that's totally fine. Then you'll continue with the V stitch through the double crochet stitch and skipping the sideways V stitch as you go along. You'll continue with the V stitch pattern all the way across the neckline, and I'll meet you back here once you're at the last stitch of the second front panel. Once you've completed all the way around until you've reached the second front panel, we'll now continue by working the bottom edging. From your last stitch, we'll turn our work to the rose post side and work it just like how we worked on the neckline. We'll treat the double crochet post stitch as our chain space. And as usual, if our last stitch was a V stitch, you'll work a double crochet stitch as your first stitch, and if the last stitch is a double crochet stitch, you'll work your V stitch instead. Here I have my last stitch as a double crochet, so I'll treat that as a chain space, and I'll work my V stitch through the double crochet post stitch. That will be my first V stitch. I'll chain one, I'll skip the V stitch and find the double crochet post stitch and use that as my chain space. You'll continue this pattern until you've reached the last stitch. Once you're almost at the end of the row, you'll treat the first red stitch as your last stitch to work over. This means you'll use that double crochet stitch as your chain space. So you'll now work your V stitch through that double crochet post stitch, and you'll chain one to start the next row. Now this part might get a bit tricky. You'll look at the next row and look for the chain spaces. If the next stitch is a sideways V, like what I have here, followed by a chain space, then you'll work a double crochet into that first stitch as usual. You'll skip that sideways V, you'll chain one, and you'll continue with the V stitch pattern through the next visible chain space. I hope this makes sense because I know this part can be a little bit confusing. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a comment down below. Now you'll work the V stitch all the way in the round, and you'll do this for a total of 3 red rows, and I'll meet you back here once we're done. Once you've completed all 3 rows, bind off and go ahead and pick up your white yarn. With your white yarn, you'll insert your hook through that last stitch that you worked on, and you'll draw up a loop. Go ahead and work 3 chains or a double crochet and a chain. Now have a look at the next row and plan your next V stitch based on the next chain space. Here I have a sideways V and a chain space, so this means I'll skip that V post and work my V stitch into the next chain space. I'll continue with the pattern all the way in the round for another 3 rows. And once you've already completed 3 white rows, that means you've already mastered this by now. So go ahead and do one more last row with the blue yarn. And you're done. Weave in all loose ends and let me know in the comment section where you'll be wearing this to. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you haven't done so yet. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.